Thanks very much, John. We really appreciate your time here today. Now I speak about Dr. John Humphreys. He's an economist with a continuing distinguished career. John has worked in universities, government and think tanks. John was awarded a PhD by the University of Queensland, where he was a lecturer before moving to Cambodia. John has also worked for the Australian Treasury, the World Bank and ASEAN. John has published many articles and books on education, tax, welfare, international trade, political economics and public finance. John founded the Liberal Democrats Party in 2001. For his charitable work in education in Cambodia, John was awarded a knighthood in a Cambodian Royal Order. John is now the Research Director at the University of Management and Economics in Cambodia. John is also a qualified Justice of the Peace, scuba dive master and recreational pilot. Where does John get the time? Please welcome our Federal President and our party founder, Dr. John Humphreys.
As for where I get the time, I don't anymore. I haven't scuba dived in a while. I think things changed a little bit recently when I did, what do they call that? I had children. 3 kids under 3. That changes your life quite a bit. So I haven't been flying for 3 years. I haven't been scuba diving for 3 years. I've been changing nappies for 3 years. So that's changed a little bit. Look, I had something quick I wanted to say, but I wanted to riff quickly on something JR was saying. And I'll apologise preemptively. I call him JR. In our party, it's John Ruddock. Second on the ticket is John Larter. National President is John Humphreys. Campaign Director is John Hoyle. There's a lot of Johns. Right? So I'm going to just shorthand, that's JR. I'll be John for the moment. But he mentioned that there's a lot of mud being thrown. And the election's being called today, so expect that. Expect a lot more of that. We've got 6 weeks of this now. You will be free of politics again on the 22nd of May. But up to the 21st of May, expect this. Now, I want you to look for this. Now, I'm predicting it. I could be wrong. I'll make a fool of myself. But this is what I'm predicting. Look for this. They're going to throw mud. They always do. Both sides of politics, all sides of politics, at each other and at us and at other minor parties. But what I'd be really curious to know is, when they throw mud, is it about policy? Are they going to say, this other party has this idea wrong? They've got this policy wrong. I've got a better idea. Is that what they're going to say? Or are they going to say something personal? Are they going to say, you were mean? You had too many drinks once? Are they going to say something that is thoroughly unrelated to improving the quality of your life? Now, in a well-functioning democracy, in an ideal world, we should be debating policy. We could be wrong on policy. I don't think we are, obviously, but we could be wrong. They could be wrong. Let's discuss it. Let's go back and forth. Let's discuss ideas. And if you think your ideas are wrong, attack our ideas. That's great. That's how it's supposed to work. But I have a prediction. Over the next 6 weeks, have a look. Are they going to attack ideas, or are they going to attack people? I'll be curious. All right, you can tell me in 6 weeks' time that I was wrong. I may be wrong. But look out for that. Because we are a party of ideas, and we're happy to debate ideas. We do it a lot. You've heard a couple of speeches full of ideas. And I think that's a good thing for politics. But it'll be interesting to see. It'll be a battle of ideas or a battle of throwing mud. Let's have a look for that. Now, what I did want to mention, what I already had planned to say when I came here, is there are times where politics change. Often it doesn't. As JR said, every election there's a politician telling you this is the most important election ever. You get that every time. I don't want to say it because it'll make me a cliche, but there are times when politics changes. And this could be one of those moments. Why? Because of the last couple of years. The last couple of years, I think, has shaken a lot of people. A lot of people maybe weren't that interested in politics before. I think it was Ayn Rand who once said that just because you don't pay attention to politics doesn't mean politics won't pay attention to you. And when politics pays attention to you, that can jolt you into suddenly thinking again about things you might not have thought about before. And I think this could be one of the moments we're in now. This could be. We'll find out on the 21st of May. But this could be a moment where a bunch of people have taken a second look at politics. A second look at what they always thought they believed about politics. And if that is the case, then we could see something significantly changing. And why is this? Well, obviously, the last 2 years, what I'm talking about is COVID. COVID came along, significantly impacted all of our lives, and you've probably all been involved at some stage about some stupid argument back and forth about COVID or COVID's response. We nearly all have. Try to avoid those discussions with family members now for the sake of peace, but you probably know what I'm talking about. It's what I would say happened in the last 2 years, and people disagree. If you disagree with ideas that I have, I'd love the debate. Disagreeing with ideas is good, but the way I would read the last couple of years is, as JR said, there was a real problem. And politicians do what they often do. They exaggerate it and use that exaggeration to get more money and power for politicians and bureaucrats. So I'm not denying the underlying problem. But I think this trend here, the exaggeration leading to more money and power to politicians and bureaucrats, a lot of people have started noticing this. Maybe not a majority in the country yet, but a growing minority suddenly saw this and thought, wow, that's an interesting trend, and that's undesirable, and I don't like that. Maybe people who didn't used to be interested in politics, but they've seen this, and they've realized they don't like it. What's interesting, I think, is what lesson will be drawn from this. There's two possible lessons. One is COVID could be it could be a unicorn. It's the one-off time. It's the only time in history where a politician has lied to you. I mean, it could be. You're supposed to laugh at that, right? Politicians have lied to you more than once. It could be a unicorn that's the only time you needed to notice this trend. I put to you a different theory, and this is basically the basis of our political party. For 21 years, this has been our narrative. The idea of politicians taking something that's true, exaggerating the hell out of it, and using it to justify more money and power for them is not an anomaly. It did not only happen with COVID. It is their modus operandi. It's how they operate. This is the nature of government. And it's not because they're bad people involved. It's the nature of the incentives of government. And what it does for me, and I hope for you, is it makes me skeptical of government as a starting position. I am skeptical of centralized government power, and that is the core philosophy of this political party. Note that it's not the core philosophy of our political party for the last 2 years. We've been saying this exact same story for 21 years. Now, 21 years ago, I didn't know COVID was coming, right? That would have been genius, but I didn't. We've been saying the same thing. Be skeptical of politicians coming to you with fear campaigns to justify more money and power for themselves. Now, I'd hesitate to say, it's dangerous when you raise other topics, but this idea of exaggerate a fear campaign and give more money and power to government, I've been talking about COVID. Or have I been talking about climate change? Very similar narrative. It's a true problem. There's a real problem there, right? I don't want to deny the problem of COVID or climate change, but then you exaggerate the hell out of it and use it to justify more money and power to government. So now we've noticed it twice. Let's start looking for a trend. Once you start looking, you're going to find it everywhere. And once you start noticing that trend, I hope you will join me and join the Liberal Democrats in having an instinctive skepticism of every time a politician tries to sell you a fear campaign. And note the end of the fear campaign ends with, and give me a bit more money, and give me a bit more power. Oh, that's convenient. So anyway, that is the core reason this party exists. Parties exist for different reasons. Some parties exist because they've got a charismatic personality at the center. Some parties exist because they have hundreds of millions of dollars at their center. Some parties exist, like ours, because we have a core philosophy at our center. And that is this, skepticism of centralized government power, and skepticism of this be scared, give me power narrative that politicians so often run. So, this is what we're about. This is what our candidates are about. This is what Barry's about, which is why he's going to be a great local MP for this area. This is what JR's about, which is why he's going to be a great senator. And this is why we need your help. So if anything I've said here has touched a nerve, or JR, or Barry, please join in. Get involved. We need people. We always need people. Kate, where are you? At the back somewhere. There we go. She's collecting names. She's collecting numbers. Please, if you have a moment, it doesn't have to be a lot. Anything you can do to help is appreciated. But if you can't help, please hit up Kate, give her your details. Feel free to donate millions of dollars, but failing that, an hour or two now and then would be wonderful. So your choice between those two options. With that being said, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Barry, for inviting me. And good luck in your campaign.
So with that, we'll adjourn for lunch. Thanks so much for coming today. We really appreciate it. Please talk to John and John during lunch. Thanks very much.